Well, has it ever struck you that Trump scandals seem to arrive with precision timing, like clockwork, new revelations cropping up whenever they're needed to sabotage this new administration? Well, maybe it's not just you that's occurred to. Noah Rothman is an associate editor at Commentary magazine, and in a recent piece, he accused the outgoing Obama dynasty of, quote, waging war against the White House, deliberately trying to destabilize the new administration. Noah Rothman joins us now to explain. Noah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So you're saying that there is a method to all this, all these revelations about contact with the Russian government, et cetera, that this is, in effect, being orchestrated?
Well, Wednesday night was particularly frenzied because we had 3 stories that came out with quick succession, one after the other, all of them having the quote-unquote former administration official, the ubiquitous presence. And they're just about all of them are alleging that this administration is doing something that we didn't do, that this particular aspect of how the administration functions is certainly not how we function. I'm not entirely sure it's destabilizing so much as it is an effort to rehabilitate the Obama White House, particularly the foreign policy establishment, which left with a cloud hanging over it.
So here's what we do know the former administration did, and I'm not sure why it hasn't received more attention. We know that the Obama administration spied upon, wiretapped General Michael Flynn as a private citizen in his conversations with foreign officials, and then leaked the contents of those conversations to the press. I don't think that's legal, but in any case, it is a scandal because you shouldn't be spying on your political opponents, right? Why is this not being covered?
Well, it is being covered. It's being covered in the New York Times, but the context is the Obama administration left a trail of breadcrumbs for investigators to discover related to this Russia scandal. If anybody wanted to look into this information, a lot of it was, the classification was reduced, or some of it was, they just allowed people to see information that they didn't want to see. And what you're referring to is transcripts that were apparently taken of calls that were intercepted to Russian officials, which is apparently standard, but the fact that those were transcribed and related to reporters is far from it. This is the kind of thing that we're talking about, and it's being presented as noble and virtuous, and it's valuable information. Don't get me wrong, I'm not making a judgment there, but at the same time, it's not normal. This is very unique.
Or maybe it is normal. Maybe when you have a powerful intelligence agency at your disposal, the temptation to use it against your political opponents is overwhelming. This is what happens in third world countries, for sure. And now it appears to be happening here.
And that's what's disturbing about this sort of thing. What we know about the Flynn situation is that this information came from likely foreign administration or former administration officials, and that it was very sensitive. And how did they get their hands on it, and why did they relate it to the press? We can only know that it's political in nature. I mean, it's presented as such that this administration is very deeply concerned, the last administration is very deeply concerned about the allegiances of members of this current administration, and that's fine. But we're also not investigating the fact that the last administration was criticized very heavily by members of the press, by people on Capitol Hill, by the Hillary Clinton campaign for not responding as forcefully as they should have to the Russian attacks, or the Russian hacks, rather. So the fact that there's a careerist element to this probably deserves a little bit more scrutiny than it's received.
And there always is. So if these revelations are connected, are part of a strategy, where do you expect it to go from here? What's the next?
We're seeing the next wave right now with regard to Attorney General Sessions. He did himself no favors by not being as clear as he could have in Senate testimony. But the information that we received, again, on this Wednesday night flurry of information, that New York Times report about the breadcrumb trail included information about former Senator Sessions' contacts with Russian officials. The Washington Post later confirmed that. All of this came from sources that were not unattributed, but who are talking very freely to the press. So I expect to see a lot more of that. And frankly, this administration probably should get ahead of some of these stories if they want to blunt the momentum.
Yeah, probably. I always thought people who talked about the deep state were kind of conspiracy nuts. I don't think that as much anymore. Noah, thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.